وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ مَنَامُكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَابْتِغَاؤُكُمْ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَسْمَعُونَ.
And of His signs is your sleeping at night, and your seeking His bounty during the day. Indeed, there are signs in this for those who hearken.
33. To seek bounty is to seek the livelihood. Though man generally sleeps at night and works for his living in the day, this is not a law. Many people also sleep in the day and work for their livelihood at night. That is why the night and the day both have been mentioned, and it has been said, in both day and night you sleep as well as work for your livelihood. This also is a sign which points to the design of the wise Creator. Furthermore, it also points to the fact that He is not merely a creator but also extremely compassionate and merciful to His creations, and is more anxious than the creation to meet its needs and requirements. Man cannot constantly labor but needs to have a rest of a few hours after every few hours of hard work so as to rebuild energy to take up work again. For this purpose, the wise and merciful Creator has not rested content with creating a feeling of fatigue and a desire for rest in man, but has placed in his nature a powerful urge for the sleep, which without his will, even in spite of resistance from him, overpowers him automatically after every few hours of work and wakefulness, and compels him to have a few hours of rest, and leaves him as soon as the need has been fulfilled. Man has so far been unable to understand the nature and real causes of the sleep. This is something fully innate, which has been placed in the nature and structure of man. Its being precisely according to the requirements of man is enough to testify that it is not anything accidental, but has been provided by a wise being in accordance with a purpose and plan. It is based on a clear wisdom and reason and purposefulness. Moreover, the sleep itself testifies that the one who has placed this compulsive urge in man is a greater well-wisher of man than man himself, otherwise man would have deliberately resisted the sleep and endeavored to keep constantly awake and worked continuously hard and thus exhaust not only his work power but also his vital powers. Then, by using the word, seeking Allah's bounty, for the seeking of livelihood, allusion has been made to another series of the signs. How could have man sought and found his livelihood if the innumerable and unlimited forces of the earth and heavens had not been put to work to provide means of the livelihood and supply countless resources for man to seek it in the earth? Not only this, man could not have exploited these means and resources had he not been given appropriate limbs and suitable physical and mental capabilities for the purpose. Thus the ability in man to seek the livelihood and the presence of the resources of the livelihood outside of him, clearly indicate the existence of a merciful and beneficent God. An intellect which is not sick can never presume that all this has happened by chance, or is the manifestation of the Godhead of many gods, or some merciless, blind force is responsible for these bounties and blessings.
Indeed, there are signs in this for those who hearken.
وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ يُرِيكُمُ الْبَرْقَ خَوْفًا وَطَمَعًا وَيُنَزِّلُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً فَيُحْيِي بِهِ الْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ.
And of His signs is that He shows you lightning, arousing both fear and hope, and sends down water from the sky, and revives the earth after it is dead. Indeed, there are signs in this for those who use their reason.
34. That is, its thunder and lightning give hope that rain will come and help the crops, but at the same time they cause a fear that the lightning may strike somewhere, or heavy rain may fall, which may wash away everything. 35. This thing, on the one hand, points to the life hereafter, and on the other, proves that God exists, and there is one God alone, who is controlling the earth and the heavens. Innumerable creatures of the earth live on the products that come out from the earth. These products depend on the productivity of the earth. The productivity depends on the rain, whether it directly falls on the earth, or its water gathers together on the surface of the earth, or takes the form of underground water channels or springs or wells, or freezes on the mountains and then flows down in the form of rivers. Then the rain depends on the heat of the sun, the change of seasons, atmospheric changes in temperature, circulation of the winds, and on the lightning, which causes the rain to fall as well as mixes a kind of natural manure in the rainwater. The establishment of a harmony and proportion between different things existing from the earth to the sky, their becoming favorable and subservient to a variety of aims and objects, and their remaining continuously and constantly favorable in perfect harmony for millions of million years cannot be the product of mere chance. Has it all happened without the all-embracing will and plan and wisdom of a fashioner and designer? And is it not a proof of the fact that the Creator and Lord of the earth, the sun, the water, the heat and coolness is one and only one?
وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَن تَقُومَ السَّمَاءُ وَالْأَرْضُ بِأَمْرِهِ ثُمَّ إِذَا دَعَاكُمْ دَعْوَةً مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ إِذَا أَنْتُمْ تَخْرُجُونَ.
And of his signs is that the sky and the earth stand firm by his command, that no sooner than he summons you out of the earth, you will come forth.
36. That is, not only have they come into being by his command, but their continuous existence and the functioning in them of a grand workshop of life constantly is also due to his command. If his command does not sustain them even for a moment, the entire system should break down at once. 37. That is, it is not at all difficult for the Creator and Controller of the universe to raise you back to life. For this he will have to make no preparation. His one call will be enough to raise and muster together from every corner of the earth all human beings who have been born since the beginning of creation and will be born in the future.
وَلَهُ مَن فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كُلٌّ لَهُ قَانِتُونَ.
To him belong all who are in the heavens and all who are on the earth. All are in obedience to him.
وَهُوَ الَّذِي يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ وَهُوَ أَهْوَنُ عَلَيْهِ وَلَهُ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ.
It is he who creates in the first instance, and it is he who will repeat the creation, and that is easier for him. His is the loftiest attribute in the heavens and the earth. He is the most mighty, the most wise.
38. That is, if it was not difficult for him to create you in the first instance, how can it be difficult for him to recreate you? Your first creation was not difficult for him because your present existence is a living proof of that. Now it is simple common sense that the remaking of a thing should be relatively easier for the one who made it the first time.
ضرب لكم مثلا من أنفسكم هل لكم مما ملكت أيمانكم من شركاء فيما رزقناكم فأنتم فيه سواء تخافونهم كخيفتكم أنفسكم كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يعقلون.
He sets forth for you a parable from your own lives. Do you have among your slaves some who share with you the sustenance that we have bestowed on you, so that you become equals in it, all being alike, and then you would hold them in fear as you fear each other? Thus do we make plain the signs for those who use reason.
39. In the foregoing section, arguments have been given both for Tawheed and for the hereafter. Now the discourse turns to only Tawheed. 40. The Mushriks, even after admitting that Allah is the creator and master of the earth and heavens and all that they contain, held some of his creatures as associates in his attributes and powers, and prayed to them, presented offerings and performed rites of worship before them. Their belief regarding their self-made associates is found in the words of the talbih that they used to pronounce while going round the Kaaba. They said, "Here I am, O Allah, here I am in thy presence. Thou hast no partner except the partner who is thy own. Thou art his owner as well as owner of what he owns." Tabrani on the authority of Ibn Abbas. Allah has refuted this kind of shirk in this verse. The argument is to this effect: when you do not make your own slaves partners in your wealth, how do you think and believe that Allah will make his creatures partners in his Godhead? See, En. 62 of Surah An-Nahl. 41.
And then you would hold them in fear.
بل اتبع الذين ظلموا أهواءهم بغير علم فمن يهدي من أضل الله وما لهم من ناصرين.
But the wrongdoers follow their desires without any knowledge. Who then can show the way to him whom Allah lets go astray? Such shall have no helpers.
41. That is, when a person neither thinks on the right way by himself, nor is prepared to listen to a well-wisher, his intellect comes under the curse of Allah. After this, everything that can help reasonable person to reach the truth, only helps this stubborn and ignorant person to be involved more and more deeply in further deviation and error. This is what has been conveyed in the word, sending astray. When a truth-loving person invokes Allah for the grace of guidance, Allah creates for him maximum means of the guidance according to the sincerity of his invocation. And when a straight person insists on his deviation, Allah creates for him the means which mislead him further and further away from the truth.
فأقم وجهك للدين حنيفا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون.
O Prophet and his followers, turn your face single-mindedly to the true faith and adhere to the true nature on which Allah has created human beings. The mold fashioned by Allah cannot be altered. That is the true, straight faith, although most people do not know.
37. That is, it is not at all difficult for the Creator. 42. This, so implies that when the reality has become clear to you, and you have come to know that none but Allah is the Creator and Master and Sovereign of this universe and of man himself, then inevitably your conduct should be such as indicated in this verse. 43. Set your face, truth, do not turn your face to any other direction after you have adopted this way of life. Then you should think like a Muslim and your likes and dislikes should be of a Muslim. Your values and standards should be the ones set by Islam and your character and conduct should bear the stamp of Islam, and the affairs of your individual and collective life should be ordered according to the way taught by Islam. 44. This faith, the faith that the Quran presents, in which none but Allah is worthy of worship and obedience, in which none can be held as an associate of Allah in His divinity, in His attributes and His powers and rights, in which man by his own free will chooses to order his life in accordance with the guidance and law of Allah. 45. That is, all human beings have been created on the nature that none but one Allah is their creator and Lord and deity. You should be steadfast on this nature. If you adopt the attitude of independence, you will be following a way opposed to your nature, and if you serve and worship another besides Allah, then you will be working against your nature. This subject has been explained by the Prophet, peace be upon him, in a number of ahadith. According to Bukhari and Muslim, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, every child who is born on the human nature. It is his parents who make him a Jew or a Christian or a Magian, etc. Afterwards, its example is that of an animal which gives birth to complete and sound young ones. None is born with torn and cut off ears, but the mushriks tear their ears afterwards on account of their superstitions of ignorance. According to another hadith reported in Musnad Ahmad and Nasai, the Muslims in a war killed the children of the enemy. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, came to know of it, he became very angry, and said, what has happened to the people that they have transgressed the limits and killed even the children? A man said, "Were they not the children of the mushriks?" The Prophet, peace be upon him, replied, "Even the best of your people are the children of the mushriks." Then he said, "Every living being is born on the nature. Then when he becomes able to speak, his parents turn him into a Jew or a Christian." In another hadith which has been reported by Lma Muhammad on the authority of Ayad bin Himar ul-Mujashi, it has been related that one day the Prophet, peace be upon him, said during an address, "My Lord says, I had created all my servants on true faith. Then the Satans came and led them astray from their faith, and made unlawful what I had made lawful for them, and commanded them to associate with me those for whom I have sent down no authority." 46. That is, God has made man his servant and created him only for his own service. This natural disposition of man cannot be altered, however hard one may try. Neither can man effect a change in his position of a servant, nor can anything other than God become his God in the real sense. Man may make for himself as many gods as he may please, but the fact remains that he is the servant of none but one God alone. Man by his own folly and ignorance may regard anyone as holder of divine attributes and powers and take anyone as the maker and unmaker of his destiny, but the fact of the matter is that neither does anyone other than Allah possess divine attributes nor his authority, nor has anyone else the power to make or mar the destiny of man. Another translation of this verse can be, "Do not affect any alteration in the nature made by Allah, that is, it is not right to corrupt and spoil the nature on which Allah has created man." 47. Right religion to remain steadfast on one's true nature.
منيبين إليه واتقوه وأقيموا الصلاة ولا تكونوا من المشركين.
Adhere to the true faith, and turn to Him, and hold Him in awe, and establish prayer, and do not be of those who associate others with Allah in His divinity.
48. That is, whoever has adopted an attitude of independence and freedom and turned away from his true Lord, and whoever has adopted service of another than Allah and proved to be disloyal to his real and true Lord, should desist from this, and return to the service of the one God whose real servant is he by birth. 49. That is, you should have the fear that if in spite of being a servant of Allah by birth, you adopted the way of living independent of Him, or served another beside Him, you will have to suffer a severe punishment for rebellion and ingratitude. Therefore, you should avoid every such way of life which earns you the wrath of God. 50. Both turning to Allah and having fear of His wrath are the acts of the heart. This state of the heart, for its manifestation and stability, inevitably needs a physical act, which they make it known to others in society that so and so has really returned to the service of one Allah alone, and which, at the same time, may go on nourishing and developing the state of piety and devotion in his own self by means of practical experience and discipline. That is why immediately after giving the command for a mental change, Allah has given the command for this physical act, i.e., establishment of the salat. As long as an idea is only an idea in the mind of man, it can neither be stable nor enduring. It may fade away or even change. But when he starts practicing it, the idea takes root in him and goes on increasing in stability and strength with more and more practice, so much so that when it has become a belief it can neither change nor fade away easily. Considered from this viewpoint, no act can be more effective than the offering of the prayer regularly 5 times a day for strengthening piety and fear of God in oneself. The other act, whatever it be, is carried out at intervals, or in different forms on different occasions, but the prayer is an act, which is performed every few hours in one and the same specific form permanently, in which man has to rehearse over and over again the whole lesson taught him by the Quran about Islam, so that he does not forget it. Furthermore, both the believers and the disbelievers have to know who among the people has given up the way of rebellion and adopted the way of obedience to the Lord. The believers have to know this so that they can form into a community and society and can cooperate with one another in the way of Allah. Then as soon as the relationship of any one of them starts showing signs of laxity with respect to the faith and Islam, this should become known to all of them at once. The disbelievers have to know this so that the dormant nature in them wakens up when they see the people from their own kith and kin turning humbly to their real God over and over again. Until their nature wakes up, they continue to be awe-stricken when they see the practical enthusiasm of the obedient servants of God. For these two objectives, the establishment of the prayer is the most effective means. Here, it should be noted that the command for the establishment of the prayer was given at Mecca at a time when a handful of the Muslims were being severely persecuted by the disbelieving Quraysh, and went on being persecuted for another 9 years after this. At that time there was no sign of the Islamic government yet in sight. If the offering of the prayer was meaningless without the Islamic government, as some ignorant people think, or if the establishment of the Salat did not mean the offering of the prayer at all but the establishment of Nizami Rububiyat, order of providence, as the deniers of Hadith claim, the Quranic injunction at that stage would have been meaningless. The question is, how did the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Muslims carry out this command for 9 years after it had been enjoined?
من الذين فرقوا دينهم وكانوا شيعا كل حزب بما لديهم فرحون.
Those who have split up their religion and have become divided into sects, each party exulting in what they have. 51. This is an allusion to the fact that the real way of life for mankind is the same way of nature as elucidated above. This way of life has not evolved from a polytheistic creed to Tawheed as thought by those who invent a philosophy of religion on the basis of speculation. But, contrary to this, all the religions found in the world today have appeared because of the corruption of the original way of life. This corruption occurred because different people added their different self-made creeds to the natural realities and created separate sects, and everyone became a devotee of the additional thing, which was the basis of the separate sect, and gave up the original way of life. Now the only way of attaining true guidance is that one should return to the original reality, which was the basis of the true faith, and rid oneself of all the later additions and excrescences and their devotees. If he still keeps any kind of contact with them, he will only be harming the true faith.